Okay, I'm doing a relocating the O2 sensors on my 2003 Nissan Altima 2.5. So this is the catalytic converter. So I've removed the pre-cat that's in the header, and I'm going to lengthen the wires and reinstall them. I got two of these bungs. Here's the bungs I'm going to put in. I'm not sure, I got these online, I don't remember where, but they're you can see they're the 18mm by 1.5mm, and these are 3/4 of an inch. They're turned on a lathe. They just have some hex stock, and then I just use a 3/4 inch hole saw. I need to clean out the burr there, and then it'll go right in. I'm going to weld these in and put that one in there. This will be your O2 sensor one coming off of the headers over here, and then this will be the downstream. So this will get rid of the check engine light, and it should run a lot better. And also I'm going to be replacing the original resonator. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to replace the factory resonator with that little glass pack. So this is not a performance modification or anything like that. The factory resonator has a big crack. You can kind of see where I welded it. It was very hard to weld. But the reason why I'm putting the glass pack in is this resonator hangs way down. Now the exhaust is hanging a little lower because it's unhooked on the front, but I don't know if you can tell in the video, probably not. It's got a lot of dents and scrapes in it because when you go over speed bumps, and we were going into a parking garage in downtown Seattle, Washington, and there was quite an angle, and this thing just dragged, the whole thing. This thing's about 40 inches long, and it just drags. You just basically bottomed out on this resonator. So I'm hoping, well, I don't see why that glass pack, it should fit up under there, and it's not going to drag on every speed bump in town. So hopefully this will work. I've got a bunch of exhaust tubing and adapters and whatnot, and hopefully I can get this in there and get this done. And like I say, your right here is where the catalytic converter is, and then I'm going to extend the wires, and saying hopefully will run much better. Okay, I got the resonator out. I cut it off flush. You can see that big old weld where it cracked. See if you can see any of the, well, you can kind of see it. It's got some scratches on it. It's kind of hard to see the dents, but I mean, this is all from dragging over the years, and that thing's huge. Okay, out with the old, in with the new. Okay, a little bit of forward progress. So I got the bungs, O2 sensor bungs in there. They're not welded. I haven't done any welding yet. So I just went ahead and marked my glass pack, just so I don't accidentally put this thing in backwards. So inside a glass pack, you've got little scoops in there, and so you want the sound to go into the scoop. If you put it in backwards, it'll be a lot louder. It'll just act like a straight pipe. So anyway, I had to buy some more adapters. So this is all ready to weld up. This is the cat. The cat will be coming in here, and then this will hook to the original exhaust tailpipe. One of the things I wasn't sure about is I didn't want to get the glass pack too close. I want to keep it as far away from the cat as I can. I was thinking maybe 8 to 12 inches. Because I was afraid that maybe the heat, you know, with the cat getting so hot, I was afraid it might melt the fiberglass and then lose the sound deadening quality. So I'm going to try to run as much. I've got this thing set up to where it's going to be shoved as far back as possible, and then I'll have to adjust my pipe out here. And yeah, so that's where we're at, and more later. Okay, I got all the preliminary welding done. I've got the bungs, O2 sensor bungs are welded in, and the glass pack, I got the adapters welded on. I went ahead and marked in and out because I didn't want to make a mistake. So on a glass pack muffler, there's little scoops in there, and you want to make sure that the exhaust coming in goes into those scoops. If you put it in backwards, you basically won't have a muffler. It'll just be like a straight pipe. It'll be really loud. And then this last piece, I haven't tacked it up yet. I'm gonna wait. So this is gonna hook into there. It's gonna hook into here, and then goes into the muffler into there. So I'm gonna have to calculate. Once I'm gonna put this piece in the car, put the cat in there, and then put this piece in, and then I'll take a measurement and I'll have to cut this down. But I got to figure out, I'll have to measure from there to the end of the tailpipe, existing tailpipe in the car, and then I'll do the calculation and cut this down. And then the last welds will be here, welding these two together and that, and then we'll be done. And on the back it's going to have a clamp, and I went ahead and I took my cutoff tool and I slotted that in 4 places. It's going to have a 2-inch exhaust clamp on it. So that's the only clamp in the system. Everything else is welded. We just slide that in and clamp it. So we should have some adjustment if I do everything right. Okay, here we go. Okay, got everything welded up, and we're ready to install. Alrighty, here we go. Okay, I got the sensors just sitting in there. The green is, of course, the upstream, and the blue, can't really see it, but the other one's a blue plug. I'm probably going to end up buying a new upstream sensor. That one, threads are pretty messed up, and the sensor, it does work. I've checked it on my scan tool. It was always working, but the end of it looks like it's kind of damaged. The ceramic or whatever is on there. I'm just kind of curious what this thing's going to sound like when I start it, because I kind of wish I would have put the glass pack a little farther forward. I planned on originally having it back about 8 to 10 inches behind the cat, and I put it way back. So hopefully it's not going to be too loud. If it is, I mean, I hate to do it, but I'll have to just go in and put a muffler in here. But if I put a muffler in, I'll put something that's not going to be huge like that. That was the whole reason of putting this in. Just, I wanted something that doesn't hang down. This doesn't even hang down as far as, the original exhaust pipe. So it's definitely not going to drag on anything. So then the only thing I have left to do is extend the wiring harness and plug it in and fire it up, and we're good to go. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so I'm working on the wiring, and there's a piece here. It's kind of hard to see, but for your air box, your air filter, I took the tube out here, and I also unhooked this coolant line. It goes down and hooks on right here. So just be aware if you're going to do something like this, there's coolant coming off the head. I may have, it looks like I've lucked out. Can't believe it. Originally I was planning on, I was going to go ahead and I was going to cut the factory harness, which I did not want to do, and solder long wires on. But these are long enough. It looks like they're going to plug right in. It's going to be a plug-and-play install. So trying to see where we're at down there. You can kind of see the steering gear down there. Let's see if I can get the light out of the way. Well, anyway, down there there's, get this light to stay here. Right down here you see the there's a couple of hoses down there. That's your, looks like your steering gear, power steering gear. And we're going to go right over top of those, and then there's two lines here. It's hard to get this in. Okay, yeah, these two lines. So we're going to go right in between there and the steering gear. Right there. That's the spot, right at the where my fingers are, right there. So what I got to do is, you know, I undid the split loom. So I bought some 3/8 and 1/2 inch loom. I'm going to put new split loom on this, zip tie it, and then shove it back in there. And you know, I got to kind of snake it through here. And I don't know, I probably won't be able to, you won't be able to really see, but there's kind of a hole in the loom, or there's a certain spot it's got to go through. Kind of hard to get a shot of it because this hose is in the way, but yeah, you can kind of see it down there. There's that curved piece. There's a hole right there. Go right through there, and it comes out, and yeah. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I got the split loom put on. I ended up going with 1/2 inch on here, and I used some electrical tape on the end. This is pretty well protected out here. It's got some factory sheathing underneath it. Plus I put the electrical tape on there. So yeah, so, and then the factory wiring, you know, I had to strip all this off and redo it. So originally the sensors would have come out here and gone that way, so we pulled everything back there, and we're going to shove it that way. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is the plug I'm putting in the where the pre-cat was. It's an M18 by 1.5 millimeter oil tight. There's a part number there. I think this is a for your oil pan, and I got 2 of those. Yeah, it's for an oil pan because it comes with a rubber gasket. Won't be using that. Okay, that's going in the old O2 sensor location. Okay, so I have had a little issue with the original O2 sensor bung, the upstream. After I gutted the pre-cat, I noticed not long after the bung was leaking around it. You could see exhaust was coming out, and I was getting some real lean codes on the scan tool, so I welded it up. It was pretty hard to weld, and ever since then I think the bung must have expanded or something. Maybe I overheated it, but the O2 sensor, when I took it out, the threads were all screwed up, and when I tried putting the metric plug in there, it's like the hole's too big, and it's just, there's hardly any threads left in there. They're all gone. So what I came up with was, I've got a 3/8, I think it's a 3/8 pipe plug, and I just tacked this handle, just some scrap metal on here, and I'm just gonna, you probably won't be able to see it, but I'm just gonna use that handle to hold it down in there, and then I'll weld it and then I'll cut the little handle thing off and plug this thing up. Okay. Okay, I got that plug welded in there. This header may have a bunch of cracks. I see it's got a bunch of white residue all over it. I don't know if that's exhaust leaking out or if that's something else, but so I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, I gutted this pre-cat, so there's nothing inside here. I would not ever recommend doing what I did. I think when I did this, the headers were pretty expensive. They were like 300 bucks. Now you can get the header for $50 all over eBay and whatever, Amazon. So that's pretty cheap, but that was a lot of work cutting this thing apart and re-welding it. The other thing is, it sounds horrible because you got these 4 pipes going into that giant, now it's an open chamber, whereas it used to have a restriction. It was quiet. You can see because it was so noisy, I tried to wrap it with header wrap to make it quieter. And that didn't work very well. It helped a little bit. Anyway, so I think we're pretty much done here. One thing I would mention, anytime you're doing any welding on a car or doing any electrical work, always unhook your battery cable. I just took the negative side off. I don't know for sure, but I mean, I've always heard, say you've got your ground on here and you're welding and it falls off. Now it tries to ground, you know, through the battery. It could try to maybe ground through the battery. I don't know. It's got to be real careful welding near a battery anyway, because these can blow up. But you just got to be really careful. Anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think I'm done. I'm going to leave the heat shield off. I need to put all that hoses back on and then take this thing out. Okay, one last thing about being a DIY mechanic, do-it-yourselfer. You're gonna, as you're working on something on your car, you might see other things, and this car's been having some vibrations and a lot of weird noises. And this tire, I don't know how many years old it is, but my wife got a flat, and so we replaced the one tire. So this one is actually the best tire on the vehicle. But I was wondering about those noises and everything. I thought maybe we have a wheel bearing going out or a strut. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to look into this. But I started looking at the tire and I noticed something. So check this out. The inside there, the tread's completely gone. This is just one section. Tread's completely gone. And the other thing is, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see it, but this center section right in here is dipped. I don't know if I can get a shot of that. It's kind of hard to probably see in the camera, but this has a big dip right here. So tread gone here, dip here. This tread's half worn. Tread out here seems to be okay. It looks like the belts have failed in this tire. If this is a tire problem, I don't know. I went on the internet, couldn't find anything like this. I don't know if a bad strut or a wheel bearing can cause this problem. It's just one spot on the tire. The rest of the tire is perfect. I don't know if being out of balance can cause that. I mean, look at that. That's pretty good. It does have a little inner wear, maybe, but not too bad. I mean, this is a pretty good tire. Might be a little out of alignment. So I'm gonna have to take it to the tire shop and hopefully they'll give me an honest answer and not try to rip me off, because I've never seen anything like this before. I was gonna get this car done and send my wife to work, and I was like, oh no, you're not driving this. This is not good. So anyway, just little FYI, when you're working on something, whether it's an oil change or whatever, look at that, you can see that tread there. If you're working on your car, doing anything, be looking around at other things before you get it off the jack stands or whatever, because you might find something really ugly like this. Trying to get a better shot of this tread. You can kind of see the dip here. Look at that. I mean, this is crazy. It's up here, normal here, dipped here, and dipped there. I need an extra hand here. Look at this. Let's go all the way around. Take a look at that tire. Okay, it's getting close to normal. Yeah, I'd say that's about normal there. That's what the tire should look like. Nice and round, or, you know, the way a tire should look. I think we're starting to get close to the bad spot again. Right there. There it is. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, enough of that. Okay, so I got that tube put back in. This hose had come off, so I took off the cover that's normally on here and replaced this hose. It was all dried and cracked. The reason why I turned the video back on was I just remembered something. About a week ago, my wife was going to go to work. It was on a Monday. Went to start the car, wouldn't start. It fired a couple times but would not run. And I thought, oh no. So I went out there and I thought, well, let me try my key, because we had problems before with the inhibitor and had some key issues, but I thought we had that all fixed. Well, my key did the same thing. Crank, crank, crank. Nothing. So I take her to work and I come back and I'm like, oh no. And I was getting really worried. I was thinking the worst. I was thinking crank sensor. I was thinking possible timing chain, maybe skipped a tooth, or I thought it acted like it had too much advance or something. It would fire, but it would not continue to run. And I was like, oh boy. So I thought, okay, I'll just check the easy stuff first. So on here there's a fusible link and there's a bunch of fuses. I checked those. They're visual. You can just look at it. They were fine. But as I'm looking at this, I noticed that this hose clamp was loose. It was just dangling. And this tube here had moved off. There was a gap here. And I don't know what this sensor is. It's probably an air temperature sensor or something. And then on the other side, you got the MAP sensor, mass airflow sensor on the throttle body. And I went, oh. So what had happened was, a few weeks ago, I put HID lights on this. And of course, to get into the bulbs, I took all this out. And so that's why that was loose. I didn't get that tightened back down. And I just never thought that having a little gap in this hose would keep this engine from running. I was thinking worse, you know, this something really bad. Came down to a hose clamp. So again, this is why, you know, always check your work. Obviously, it would have been better to not make that mistake, but the car had run the day before. I'd started it, moved it, ran fine. Next day, nothing. So it's amazing how something simple like that can just kill a car. And a lot of times I've learned over the years, usually if a car runs fine one day and then nothing, it's normally, I find it's an electrical thing. Usually something's come unplugged or whatever. But in this case, it was something simple. But anyway, I just thought I'd point that out. If you ever have an issue where you worked on your car and then like a 2.5 and later it's not working, you know, not starting, always check things like that. Okay. Okay. Boy, I tell you, I got lucky here. I was able to, originally I thought my plan was to cut the original harness, but I didn't have to. I was able to snake those wires down there, and it hooked right up, no problem. So that saved me a lot of time. This should work. Okay. There he is. And I did start it up and just ran it. I haven't started it yet with the sensors hooked up, but I fired it up just real quick with the sensors in there, but not hooked up, and it sounded fine at idle. I couldn't notice any difference between that and the way it sounded, so hopefully nobody will notice that difference.